now that you've covered all this stuff, how do you remember it? How do you keep it straight? There's a couple things I would suggest. First of all, you have to know the definitions and the vocabulary. There's been a strong emphasis on that, so make sure you know, for example, the definition of division. And furthermore, you should be able to take this and put it in your own words. Like, for example, when I look at this tells me that division is a backwards way of multiplying, right? Every division problem can be written as a multiplication problem. So my question is, okay, is that true with subtraction and addition? Can you think of subtraction as a backwards way of adding? Think about that. Anyway, let's look at some practice problems here. When you divide a positive by a negative, you get a negative. And the reason why is because of the definition. When you take negative 4 times negative 6, you get 24, right? Okay. Another thing you should do to help you remember this is to reflect on it. Like, for example, ask yourself questions like, okay, you've covered these 4 basic operations. My question is, which of those operations are commutative? In other words, which can you move around? I think you probably know the answer to this. And what you could do if you're not sure is make up some examples. This is really good advice here. For example, is 8 plus 4 the same as 4 plus 8? Yes. They're both equal to 12. So that would suggest that it is a commutative operation. Is subtraction commutative though? Let's make up an example. Is 8 minus 4 the same as 4 minus 8? No. 8 minus 4 is 4. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So that seems to indicate it's not a commutative operation. Multiplication. Is that a commutative operation? I think we already said it was. Does 8 times 4 equal 4 times 8? The answer is yes. How about division? Does 8 divided by 4 equal 4 divided by 8? No. 8 divided by 4 is 2. 4 divided by 8 is 1/2. So only addition and multiplication are commutative. And you shouldn't just memorize that. You should be able to figure it out. Anyway, in this problem set, you're just going to pretty much be summarizing what you've been looking at the last couple problem sets. A lot of simplifying. I'll do a couple, then I'll give you some to practice. How about that? So on this first one, you have a division. You have a division problem. You know, do you understand that you could have written it like this also? I actually would prefer this. If it's this blob divided by this blob, I'd like to think of it as this blob over this blob. You don't have to do that, but to me it's easier to understand. I'm more used to doing it that way. But you could have simplified it in this form too. Now, you got to watch these minus signs. This is where you might want to show some steps here. This is negative 3 minus negative 3. Remember what we talked about, when you subtract a negative, you're adding a positive. And when we went through that, why that works. So the top becomes negative 3 plus 3. On the bottom, you get negative 3 minus 3. When you change this to additive form, it becomes negative 3 plus negative 3. Top is 0, bottom negative 6. Now, is that undefined or is that 0? You shouldn't have to guess at this. It's 0 because, remember the definition. The reason why 0 divided by negative 6 is 0 is because when you multiply 0 times negative 6, you get 0. So it does help to understand why these things work. It sticks better. This one, let's see. Let's not worry about this negative sign yet. In chapter 2, when we talk about fractions, we're going to really get into that a lot more. But let's just leave this. Remember, you do this last. Change it carefully to additive form. It's negative 9 plus negative 11. On the top is negative 6 plus the opposite of negative 2, or just plus 2. I'm skipping that step. So the top becomes negative 20, the bottom becomes negative 4, and you have a negative out in front. So negative 20 over negative 4 is positive 5, so your answer is negative 5. Remember this one? You can do this several ways, but I like to keep the minus sign there and simplify each of these first and then change to additive form. When you simplify this, it becomes negative 2. When you simplify negative 16 over 8, it's negative 2 also. So it's negative 2 minus negative 2, which is just negative 2 plus 2, which is 0. This one, follow the order of operations. Remember, another good piece of advice would be to read it back if you're not sure. 12 divided by 6 minus 18 divided by 3. Do the divisions first. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 18 divided by 3 is 6. I haven't done the subtraction yet. 2 minus 6 is the same as 2 plus negative 6, which is negative 4. All right. Okay. So let's see. Go ahead. I'll work these on your own. Hit the pause button. We'll go over them in just a minute. Okay, some of these are kind of sneaky. On this first one, like I said, I'd suggest just leaving that negative sign out front and do that last. So when you change to additive form, on the top, 8 plus negative 4, 4 plus negative 8 on the bottom. And then when you simplify the top, let's see, 8 plus negative 4 is 4, 4 plus negative 8 is negative 4. So you get the opposite of 4 over negative 4. 4 over negative 4 is just negative 1, so it's the opposite of negative 1, which is 1. So you got to be careful. Now this next one doesn't look very hard, but it's very sneaky. The question is, which operation do you do first? And here's a really good example of why you might want to read the problem back. It helps. This is negative 8 divided by 4 times negative 2. When you have a division and a multiplication, which do you do first? The answer is left to right. So the division happens first. Okay? What is negative 8 divided by 4? It's negative 2. So you should have got negative 2 times negative 2. The answer is 4. Visually, it's tempting to want to do the multiplication first, but no, the division comes before the multiplication. Order of operations says you go from left to right. Whew, that was sneaky, I thought. These can be hard, but if you have good algebra skills, you've learned everything, and you just, not too big a hurry, you change everything to additive form, work inside the innermost parentheses, you get down to here. This is negative 2 plus the opposite of negative 4. Well, the opposite of negative 4 is just 4, so it's 2 plus 4. Which is, I should say, negative 2 plus 4, which is 2, right? Okay, this one, you would simplify the numerator and denominator separately, the top and bottom separately. Change to additive form. And then work inside the parentheses. Inside the parentheses, you get a negative 6 here. On the bottom, when you have a negative 3 minus negative 3, isn't that just negative 3 plus 3? So unfortunately on the bottom you get 0. And you should remember, when you have 0 below, it's got to go. Or better yet, the definition of division. The reason why it's undefined is no matter what this is, when you multiply by 0, you'll never get 42. So that's why it's undefined. Okay, a couple more here. Again, these problems are kind of involved. You just got to be patient. We're going to simplify the numerator and denominator separately. The numerator is the number on the top. The denominator is the number on the bottom. We'll get into that when we talk about fractions. Change to additive form. This minus becomes plus a negative. This minus becomes plus a negative also. And same on the bottom. Now remember what happens on the bottom. Negative 4 minus negative 2, the same as negative 4 plus 2. Okay? So the bottom becomes just negative 2, and the top, you have negative 14 divided by negative 7, so the top just becomes 2. What is 2 divided by negative 2? You should have got negative 1 on that one. Okay, last one. See this negative out front? We're just going to not worry about that for now. Just don't drop it. The rest we're going to change to additive form. This becomes plus a negative 2, 11 plus negative 9 over 4 plus negative 8. The bottom, or denominator, becomes negative 4. Inside these parentheses, we get a 2. So on the numerator now, you get 8 plus negative 2 times 2. You do the multiplication first. So remember, it's the opposite of 8 plus negative 4 over negative 4. So you get the opposite of 4 over negative 4. 4 over negative 4 is negative 1. What's the opposite of negative 1? It's 1. Okay, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.